Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 15. It is called Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So this one, I think it's an interesting episode. I think it's got a lot of noble intentions, and it actually makes some good points. I think ultimately it falls into a very similar vein as the last little batch of episodes, where it's just not bad. It's a perfectly reasonable, watchable episode.
Okay. I think I'm less keen on it. I think I like what it's trying to do, but I think it's more boring than the last bunch.
I think that's fair. I think there's one section that is actually really good. There's one section that I think is not boring, but I can
Hmm.
see why you're saying that. Because it's got a message. It's got like a statement, a moral that it wants to impart on us,
Yep.
particularly about racism and hatred and that kind of idea. And it's a little bit in your face with it, to
Yeah.
the point where I actually, not even intentionally trying to guess where they were going with it. I just kind of thought something when I noticed something, and then that turned out to be a big like plot point later on.
Was it when you noticed the different sides?
Yeah, like I noticed like one because so the two aliens they encounter in this episode who are humanoid because of course it's 60s Star Trek, so most aliens are just humanoids but with ears or painting or whatever.
Yes.
So these aliens, like one half, like it's almost Two-Face esque. It's almost unnatural, just this perfect straight line down the middle, where they're completely white in one side and completely black in the other. And so the first one pops up and it's okay, whatever. That's just how these folk look. And then the second guy shows up, and then I notice, oh wait, that the colours are flipped. He's
Yeah.
black and white on the other side,
And
and
you
then
know exactly what it's doing.
yeah, and then ultimately it becomes they hate each other. It's a racist thing from their planet Cheron, where the at one point he calls him a half white, but I'm like, you're still half white too. So I'm not sure how the. But obviously the point here is to because obviously when they bring up the they're like, oh the other because one of them is like I think it's Beale's talking about Lokai, who's the first dude, and he's like, oh yes, their race is inferior. And he's like, oh why, what's different about them? Kirk and Spock are
They,
questioning.
they, they haven't noticed.
Yeah, and they're like, oh well, he's white on the other side of his face, and they're like, and what difference does that make? And
You're basically the same.
and obviously the point here is that it's arbitrary; it doesn't matter, which is kind of the point in general. I mean, obviously race matters now because of the history we have as a civilization, but if you went back to the dawn of time, it shouldn't matter. It should just be arbitrary and not matter. And that's just kind of pointing that out. It's like, what, you're the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've decided that you're different based on this, but you're not really. You've made yourselves different, and that's kind of what it does, and it's got an ultimate message of hatred just leading to bad things. Obviously, Starfleet and the Federation and all this. The idea is that we've kind of overcome that in the
It's all
future.
been stamped out. Yeah.
Yeah, and these characters, this where they're from, that never happened, and we find out later on because so Beale is pursuing Lokai. Lokai is of the race who is like the sort of the try to rebel back. They're the ones who are being downtrodden, and because he's seen as a terrorist, Beale is chasing him, and we find out that he's been chasing him across the galaxies for 50,000 years. And at the end of the episode, when we finally get back to Cheron, obviously there's a lot of plot to go through before we get there, but when we finally get back to Cheron at the end, we find that the planet is decimated. It is a post-apocalyptic wasteland. These civilizations have wiped each other out. There's no one else left. And the two characters end up going out of the planet. It's actually a very dark ending for a Star Trek episode because they go out of the
It
planet
is. Yeah.
and they still just want to kill each other, and they're just chasing each other around, trying to kill each other, and Kirk and Co just leave. It's like, well,
Well, yeah. They're gonna do what they're gonna do.
yeah, like they never get over their hatred, and nothing's ever going to come of it. It's a moral, it's a morality tale, and I appreciate all of that, stuff that it's doing. I think is a solid idea, especially the dark ending. I feel like
Mm.
because I feel like Star Trek. I mean, maybe in the future it'll do this more, but I feel like typically there'll be a wrapped up ending that kind of fixes it, or like, and it'll usually have a moral, but it'll be
Yeah.
fixed. Whereas here it was no just the sadness of no, this was never fixed, and this is what's going to happen now forever. They're just going to die.
No, no, it's true. And I think it's actually weird to talk about this episode now because just to talk about and break it down, it's got a lot of good things going.
It's got all that. It's a very intense because Beale in the middle. He's got some because he actually sort of beams himself aboard from his ship before it gets destroyed, and he does have some abilities. He can actually take control of the ship, and he actually redirects it to go to his planet. Because Kirk and Co, the Enterprise is meant to be doing this mission. They're going to this other planet because they need to like basically fumigate it. Essentially, like basically the planet's like going to kill everyone with the atmosphere, but they're going to go and fix it, right? And it's okay. So it's a pretty important mission. We're saving millions of lives here, so that's what they're doing.
I feel like though it loses some of the gravitas because I feel like every time we're interrupted with one of these things, they're on a pretty important mission, and it's like, well, we'll just get back to that later.
Especially since it ultimately doesn't matter much that there's a mission being interrupted. It's not a big part of the plot, really.
No, because there's been times before, like I'm thinking the one with the medical supplies, where they had an expiry date, and it's like, well, we kind of got to do this, and here it's just like, well, I mean, we'll get there when we get there. It doesn't really come up that much.
It doesn't, and then when they do get there, 2/3 in, and they do their thing, they fix it, and then it goes back to the plot. It's just what it is. But so Beale takes control of the ship, and he's like, no, we're going back to Sherwin. I am escorting this prisoner right back now. He's escaped me too many times. I do not trust. Because obviously Kirk first responds with, no. We have no like treaty with your people. Like, you are a completely new like planet to us. Like, there's procedure for this. We have to take him back to Starfleet and let them figure out what they want to do and what the process is going to be. And Beale's not happy about this, so he takes control of the ship. And he's like, no.
To be fair, understandably so, I think. Why should he, just go, fine, Starfleet, they can deal with it?
Because he's the guest here on this ship. Why should he have any say in this?
Well, no. In that part, yeah, but in the sense of Kirk being like, no, we'll deal with it. It's our problem now. And maybe to an extent, it's the seeking refuge. But I understand from his perspective, he's like, no, this is my planet. This is this is my affairs. We'll deal with this internally. Essentially, they've just happened to bypass into this space.
Yeah, but again, he's got no jurisdiction here. He's not on his planet. Like there is absolutely no justification for him just taking control by force.
No, that's what I'm not saying he's justified in going to that length, but I think him wanting to deal with it himself, I can understand.
Okay, all right. But he takes control of the ship, and he's like, no, we're going to Sherwin. I don't care what you say. We're just going there. No one can get control of the ship back. Scotty's trying his best, bless him, but he just can't do it. And basically, Kirk tries to convince him for a while, and ultimately he's not going to do it. So Kirk says, well, either I'm the captain of this ship. Either I'm going to be in control of this ship, or I'm going to destroy it so you can't misuse it. And Beale's like, you're not going to do that. Don't be silly. And actually, this is a really good scene where Kirk says, okay, everyone, we're going to destroy the ship. And it goes through like all the chiefs, all the sort of the heads. You go through Spock, you go through Scotty, everyone who has to give their authorization, and it goes through them one by one. There's a lot of close-ups of the eyes. It's like one of these tense power plays sort of moments.
Yeah.
And then it's Kirk is last, and each one is like, I'm Spock, authorization code, blah 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 blah. I give my authorization to self-detonate. Goes to Scotty, chief engineer. Eventually gets to Kirk, and he's like, okay, so it's Captain Kirk, and blah blah blah. And he's going to, and it starts counting down. And eventually, basically, like, it works. Like, eventually, seconds are to go, and Beale gives him control of the ship back. And Kirk is like, I should really throw you two in the brig, because you're fighting each other. Because at first Beale seemed like the worst, but by the time we've got to this point, they feel like they're both just as hateful as each other. They're both, they both want to kill each other, and the Lokai, because we actually hear from Beale that Lokai is very good at convincing people and gaining followers. And honestly, the episode doesn't really do a whole lot with this. There's a scene where, like, after this where Kirk lets them just sort of go about the ship. He should throw them in the brig, but he's like, no, what? You're new to this part of space. You're new to the Federation. You don't understand our laws. I'm going to, let this kind of slide. But which is a bit extreme when you just had to threaten to blow up your ship to get control back. But
it does, yeah.
Whatever.
But plot.
But Spock's like walking past one of the, the cafeteria or whatever, and he hears like Lokai talking to some of the crew. And you can hear Chekhov kind of like being indoctrinated by Lokai, where he's talking about being held captive, and Like in Chekhov's, oh yeah, this sort of stuff happened on Earth. Back in the 20th century, we got rid of that a long time ago. But it almost seems like the plot's maybe going to go in a way where he actually convinces some of the crew to become like rebels, but he never actually does anything with it.
No, it doesn't.
It kind of implies that he did that back in Sharon, and that maybe he's done that a lot, and he's gotten a lot of people killed for his cause. But it doesn't actually really show you that as an example, which would have probably been an aid to the episode if we had like 10 minutes spent on like some of the crew actually being kind of brainwashed by him to like fighting for him, and that would give us some more action. It would have maybe shown the dangers of him. Because we know Loki is definitely dangerous. Beale's definitely dangerous because we know he can take control of the ship.
I think honestly that the most that we kind of get out of it is when he shows up first, and Kirk basically defends him from Beale a little bit when he shows up. It's like, hey, no, he's ours. He's kind of under our protection, sort of thing. He's here. That's the closest we get really to seeing him, convincing people to help him.
It's a little undercooked in that sense. Like I feel like if you just develop this a little bit further, you could maybe get this to more of a point. I think maybe the makeup's too much as well. It's too extreme. I feel like something a bit more subtle would have been a better idea. I feel like, especially since like it's really glossy makeup, so it was actually almost bugging me how shiny it was. Like it just looked like makeup rather than like any sort of convincing like different skin color. Especially one of the close-ups, you could actually sometimes see like the faint line of skin like showing through in the middle.
You could.
I know that's maybe a bit of a harsh critique, but it's like, well, they chose. I mean, it's that sort of thing, right? If something doesn't work, do something else that does work.
Yeah, my only maybe justification is, back on the TVs at the time,
sure.
maybe they needed to use that gloss to actually have it stand out.
That's fair. And also, that whole line we're talking about, you can see that now because we're watching the remastered HD versions.
You definitely couldn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on the CRTs and your glorious 480i, broadcast TV in the 60s, it was probably incomprehensible. So that's fine.
Yeah. I just wonder if using like a more matte makeup to make it feel more like skin, maybe it actually just kind of didn't really look right on the screens.
I wonder if it was also, because this is still the 60s, keep in mind, I wonder if there was a genuine concern that there was enough people still watching on black and white TVs.
Ah, that's a good point.
So maybe that's why it doesn't stick out, but that's why you have to have the stark difference in both sides, because if it was just two, like, more neutral
colours...
Two kind
of shades of grey, almost, yeah. Oh, maybe you want to really highlight how obvious it is, and, just the left and the right side.
I've never actually thought about it, but I feel like Star Trek's at a time where that still might have been a consideration.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, that makes some sense, actually. Yeah.
So we might have to excuse that.
Yeah, we have to excuse that. That's fair. But still, I mean, if you're watching it now, I think it's worth just mentioning. Something that might take you out of the moment a little bit when it's going on. And like I think there's a lot of good ideas in this one. I think there's a lot of great scenes on their own. Like the bomb scene's good. I like the ending. I think the ending is dark as shit, but it's got a message, and I think the message is solid. So I agree. I appreciate that it doesn't pull any punches at the end.
No, I agree. I think the episode, it just kind of feels a bit rambly almost. It kind of just goes through the motions a bit. It does a few different things here or there, and it doesn't really settle in to really what it is until that final third.
Yeah, it's I mean, every so often we have an episode of this where we're like, if you cut out 10 minutes, this would probably be really good. Like it's just a bit too long, and they're filling a bit more time than they need to. So I think ultimately though, in terms of season 3's like sort of standard, it's kind of pretty normal for a season 3 episode in terms of the better side.
Yeah, it's par for the course.
Yeah, but again, it's not an embarrassing episode. There's definitely some some work's went into it. There's definitely some well-intended sort of ideas in there. So
I think it's just a little clunky overall, and comes off a little bit more dry and boring than some of the last few, which have also had their share of problems and kind of ultimately end up at a similar standard of they could have been good.
Yeah, well, they're kind of good, but they're not like.
Yeah, they could have been properly good though.
Yeah, but they're not quite there.
This is the same. It's like, well, this could have been good. Like, could have been really good.
I would say
it's just like,
I would say I like this one more than, say, The Empath. I felt that one felt more rambly to me because it just kept like repeating things. But the last couple, yeah, maybe they were better than this overall.
But it's not a huge, difference in
No,
quality.
it's not. It's definitely not. So we're deep into season 3 now, and we'll be back to do episode 16.
I have to say, definitely not as bad as I'd feared. At least consistently.
Sure. It's funny actually because obviously I go to IMDb for the title and any cast members. I mean, obviously we know all the main characters by now because it's season 3. But Lokai and Beale, like I'm not necessarily going to remember them, and I always go to check that kind of thing. Now, average IMDb ratings aren't exactly the best thing to go on. Like they're not necessarily always.
Yeah, but it's a ballpark, right?
I'll just say I'm a little bit worried about the next stretch of episodes. I mean, it's not a huge chasm from what these last few, but these last few, we've been saying that these are all quite consistently in the same place, and their average score on IMDb would indicate that the general audience agrees with that opinion. Dips a little bit for the next few, so brace yourself.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, we're well over halfway into the season now.
That's true. Yeah.
So even if every episode from here on out is utter garbage, I still think overall the season wasn't as bad as I feared it was going to be, but on reputation.
That's fair. But I mean, you compare it to 1 and 2, you get why there is kind of a reputation, just because.
Oh yeah.
Because those were a lot more consistently good, especially season 1. Season 2, I think, did have some stinkers sort of sprinkled throughout, which we obviously talked about at the time. But
yeah.
But obviously a lot of great classics as well. But hey, it's not been all bad though. So we'll be back next time with episode 16. It's called The Mark of Gideon. So we'll see what that shapes out to be. But that'll come next week. And we do have bonus episodes planned to make up for lost time. Those should start rolling out over the next couple of weeks. So August should be Star Trek plentiful, I suppose is what I'm saying. We can get through the rest of this season. So let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Worth mentioning, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Of course, you can go over there and you can support us even just with $1. And for that dollar, you get these Star Trek reviews a week early, as well as a few other things early, some exclusive shows. You go higher up, there's even more stuff on offer. But you can do that and you can feel good about supporting and helping us, and if not, don't feel bad either, because all the other stuff we said helps too. So but that is us, so thank you very much for once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and we'll see you next time.